when I look at what's going to change the future, it's not a Model Y with 6 seats instead of 5. Some people may want to buy that, but you look at what happened with Grok 4 this week from xAI, for example. You look at what's happening in humanoid robotics. This is really, I think, what's going to change the future. And so I'm really seeing a new thesis start to form here with xAI, putting out the smartest model yet that beat OpenAI and others in independent evaluations. Grok coming to our cars, being advertised on the Tesla website, and discussions of a possible investment that Tesla could make in xAI being renewed. I think you're really starting to see the formation of a new thesis around Tesla as a dominant force in real world AI and just in AI in general, where they've got the smartest models. They're incorporating them into their products in a way that, these other major AI companies, they don't have the factories needed to build millions of devices and gather training data in the same way. So when you start to look at it from this perspective, suddenly Tesla morphs from being an automaker in decline, and automaking being a pretty tough business, to actually one of the most unique real world AI plays. And I think that intersection of Tesla and xAI is going to continue to be an interesting discussion topic in the next few years.
Elon kind of commented on that, right? Somebody posted and was like, do you see Tesla investing into xAI? And there were a few discussions around this. There you go, right here. Tesla needs to be able to invest in xAI. Elon said it's not up to him. If it was, they would have done it a long time ago. Shareholder vote on the matter. Do you guys see this moving forward?
There's so much to dig into on this topic. Let's leave that, bring back that Elon comment real quick. That's an interesting comment because obviously Elon's the CEO of Tesla and has a lot of power. So you sort of ask yourself, okay, well, if it was up to him and they haven't done it yet, then there's only the board to blame here. Like, why haven't they brought it up? And I think there's a couple good reasons. xAI was founded, you can take it off now. xAI was founded in March of 2023. Elon didn't really formally announce the company until July of 2023. So it's been about 2 years, about 2.5 years roughly since the founding. And a lot of people, I don't think, really understand why xAI is a separate company in the first place. I think a lot of people were upset initially. It's like, why aren't you building this inside of Tesla? They already have an AI division, have incredible engineers. Like, why aren't you doing this within Tesla? Like, you're just sort of, I think a lot of people felt like you were screwing over Tesla shareholders by creating this valuable entity elsewhere. But I think there's sort of a few things to consider here in that back when Elon created this, there was, and still to this day, there was a really, really strong AI talent war. And Elon, in a reply to me about a year or so ago, told me that it was the craziest talent war he's ever seen. And I don't know if people know this, but a lot of AI companies, OpenAI and others, Google, were aggressively targeting Tesla engineers with massive compensation packages. And unfortunately, in a few cases, they were successful. And I think one major draw is that private AI companies often have low valuations, at least initially, and especially back then a couple of years ago when all this was happening, sort of the beginning of the AI race. And so you're sort of getting in at the ground floor. And if you get equity in these companies at the ground floor, you have a lot higher potential for upside on that stock than you do if you get in, if you're given stock in a company like publicly traded company like Tesla, which, has a $1 trillion market cap. Their specific example was a Tesla AI engineer, Ethan Knight, was about to leave for OpenAI. He told Elon this. And I think Elon sort of faced a decision in that he either creates a new AI startup, xAI, or he just watches some of his top AI talent walk away to competitors, which he didn't want to do. And I think a lot of people underestimate these AI engineers want to be part of a startup. They want to get equity in these things early because they want, strong compensation, but they also want a lot of upside on their stock. And Tesla had already been at a $1 trillion valuation or whatever it was back then. So that's point one. Point two is being an AI company it's really capital intensive. I think xAI alone is burning over $1 billion a month. And most of that is on GPUs. And right now they have their 200,000 unit GPU center in Memphis, Tennessee. That alone is many billions of dollars. But more longer term, xAI has plans to build a 1 million unit GPU facility, which that alone I think is going to be $25 to $30 billion is my guess. Maybe Jensen will give them sort of a bulk discount, but in general, it's tens of billions of dollars. And Tesla has a 50,000 unit GPU data center called Cortex. I think they're building Cortex 2.0 right now. That's under construction, but it's nothing really close to what xAI has with that 200,000 unit GPU supercomputer. And so imagine 2 years ago when like AI was still kind of new. ChatGPT had just come out a few months prior to that, late 2022. People were still sort of wrapping their heads around what AI is, what this means for tech, for the sort of human race, technology. And imagine Tesla were spending tens of billions of dollars to build up a GPU center with all this, to build Grok and an LLM within Tesla. I think a lot of people would have been confused about that. And I think it would have made some investors, not all, but some investors quite nervous with the amount of cash burn happening at the company. Because not only would they have to, build GPU centers to solve FSD and eventually Optimus, but also for, Grok and the LLM and xAI and stuff like that. So it would have been a massive cash burn within one company that I'm not sure would have made investors comfortable. Being a private company allows xAI to raise massive amounts of capital, not have to worry about being public or quarterly reports. They can just focus on what they need to. And then I guess the final component would be voting control. Elon said in early 2024 that he felt uncomfortable growing Tesla to be a leader in AI and robotics without 25% voting control. And he wanted enough to be influential, but not so much that he can't be overturned. And unless that was the case, he would prefer to build products outside of Tesla. And I think that sort of scared Tesla investors a little bit in that, like, is he going to build the best AI products outside of Tesla? And of course, he's still doing Optimus inside of Tesla, but Grok now, after 28 months of being founded 28 months ago, Grok looks like the leading AI model in the world, if not the leading, one of the best models in the world. So they've made incredible progress. And now it's rumored to be that xAI is seeking a $200 billion valuation, which is like 1/5 of Tesla's, which is nuts in 2 years. That's crazy. I think one of the biggest reasons that Tesla didn't invest in xAI early on, and Elon ran a poll a year ago this month asking, should Tesla invest $5 billion in xAI? And I think 62% voted yes. He said he would bring it up with the board. Maybe he did, but nothing's happened really since. And I think, unfortunately, this is just a case of shitty timing. In 2023, it was just too early. xAI didn't really raise money until the end of 2023. And then, which at that point, the the shareholder meeting for Tesla had already happened. And then heading into 2024, the main focus for that shareholder meeting in June of 2024 was Elon's compensation package revote, the revote on that compensation package from 2018. So I don't think it would have been too confusing, I think, to have this, should Tesla invest $5 billion in xAI on top of this compensation package vote. And my guess is that they also didn't do it for liability reasons. I think it was just too early in the process. They didn't want to have more lawsuits. And mind you, they were still a Delaware company up until June of 2024. So they could have had further shareholder lawsuits because of this crap. So, but now that they're a Texas-based company and that they've changed the bylaws, Tesla changed the bylaws a few months ago, and that you now have to own 3% of Tesla stock, the outstanding shares, to be able to file a similar lawsuit to what was filed, years ago for Elon's compensation package case. So they're more protected now, and now I think now is the right time for them to have a vote on whether they should invest $5 billion. And I think that's what we're going to see this November with the shareholder meeting. But yeah, that was probably a lot to digest and throw at everybody, but that's sort of my thoughts.
You made a comparison. Yeah. Sorry, go for it, Omar, and then I'll jump in.
Yeah, a lot of good thoughts there. So I think it's a really interesting tweet that we started with there, just saying, hey, if it were up to me, we would have done it. When Elon first ran that poll proposing a $5 billion investment in xAI, I think Sawyer calculated that investment would probably be worth about $50 billion if at its private valuation, if they held it today.
I'd say closer to 40 to 45, but yeah, a lot more than what it was.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about tens of billions of dollars here in mark-to-market profits. Just to put that kind of in context, in the last 12 months, Tesla's core business has generated about $6 billion in net income. So I think it probably would have been good if we had invested in xAI. Now, granted, it's risky, right? You're getting into this LLM space where everyone's just throwing money at the problem. There's no guarantee of being the best. And the product is essentially being given out for free on chatgpt.com and google.com. It's a brutal market to compete in. I don't think it would have made sense for Tesla to build 100,000 GPU cluster, hire all this talent focused on training an LLM that's just another LLM, when they really had to focus on solving FSD and humanoid robotics. So I don't think it would have been appropriate for Tesla. But this is kind of the really interesting thing about Musk. He's very innovative. And he's innovative about using off balance sheet approaches, his kind of business empire. He can have it kind of off Tesla's balance sheet, but building rockets, building these LLMs. And in some cases, it has benefits across his company, right? You know, they share material sciences between SpaceX and Tesla. SpaceX has given Tesla a little bit of marketing, launching Roadster into space and stuff like that. But for the most part, there isn't a ton of overlap. Here with xAI and Tesla, things actually get really interesting. With the ability now to integrate an LLM into your product that you control, you're not worried about Sam Altman getting all this data from Tesla vehicles, but you can now incorporate it into your product. So I think these companies are really going to get closer and closer over time. Elon kind of shot down the idea of a merger. I don't think it's right for a merger to happen now because it would likely swing Tesla into a loss. I mean, I think Sawyer made a really good point there. Can you imagine growth in the core auto business is slowing? There's all this sort of stuff going on, and then at the same time, they're burning tons of cash. It really wouldn't have worked. But making a minority investment in xAI, they don't have to obviously report xAI's profit and loss on Tesla's income statement. And then, fast forward down the road, 5-10 years down the road, I do think if xAI becomes profitable in its own right, it could make sense to merge the companies because, well, xAI is going to want capital eventually. It's going to want to either probably go on the public markets or, continue to raise private rounds. That gets challenging as you get to higher and higher levels of investment. Tesla could be, I think, a good way to do that. And as you look at sort of the intersection of robotics, self-driving, if they don't get closer together, they're really ultimately going to become competitors. And this could also help get Elon to the 25% that he wants to feel comfortable about doing that. I think this is going to be a story that we are talking about a lot in the future. And I wouldn't be surprised to see these companies get closer and closer, formalize it, I think, with an investment. That's a great first step. And maybe eventually merging them. I mean, I think he has made comments in the future that maybe you could do a deal like the xAIX deal, where you just do an all-stock deal. If, let's say, Tesla gets diluted 20%, but earnings actually grow 40% because of this new business line that gets added, well, then it's actually, I think, great for shareholders. So if you see that future kind of play out in 5 to 10 years, Tesla could be a company, I mean, maybe it wouldn't be called Tesla at that point, that makes humanoid robotics, mass produces them, is the largest autonomy provider in the world, and also has the smartest LLM or large AI models in the world as well. And if you look at it from that perspective, it's actually right now the Mag 7 that looks the cheapest in terms of dominating AI in the future. And that's the new thesis I see kind of playing out here.
We hope you enjoyed this Gigacast clip. Of course, if you want to check out the full episode, we have that right up here in the corner, the latest video. In addition with that, make sure that you're subscribed to this channel for more amazing Tesla and Elon Musk content coming from the greatest minds in the space, Omar and Sawyer. Thank you, big thank you to Jacob Hilton for clipping up this video. He puts out a ton of Tesla content as well. The link to his YouTube is in the description. Appreciate y'all tuning in. We'll see you on the next one.